Hi, welcome to the Water Center Video Studio. I'm Mary Quinnen, Vice President of the Water Center for Systems Thinking. And today we're here to take a look at an early childhood systems thinking lesson. To help us with that, we have Peggy Gingerich. Hi, Peggy, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your students?
I teach 3 to 5-year-olds at the Wolfe County Head Start. It's located in Campton, Kentucky, and it's Middle Kentucky Community Action Partnership.
Great. Well, thank you. So today we're going to take a look at one of your lessons. But before we begin, could you please describe the lesson, the content, the systems, and the systems thinking tool that you used, and what you wanted your students to learn?
Yes, I use the behavior over time graph with the story 5 Cheeky Monkeys. Here is my graph that I done with the children, which I do have the artifacts of theirs as well. So the behavior over time graph over the 5 Cheeky Monkeys.
Okay.
I wanted the children to be able to utilize one of the tools, well, the behavior over time graph tool of system thinking. I wanted them to learn the number requisition, because in the story, I would hold up and show them the number in the book and let them find it on their own graph.
Okay.
And I would let them see me place it on my graph. And then I would have them see how the story changed over time.
So how did systems thinking in this lesson provide your students with the opportunity to develop their communication skills and their critical thinking?
It provided them to actually listen to the story so that they could hear those numbers. It allowed them to discuss with not only me, but their peers as well, so the other children, about their line, if it was decreasing or increasing, going up or down. Sometimes if they didn't hear me use the word decreasing yet, they would say it's going down. Heard me say decreasing, they would say the word decreasing. And then I would also have my hands, and so would they. So at the beginning of the book, we would do like the 5 cheeky monkeys, and then one disappears. I can't remember the story correctly. So it counted down to how many, and then they would either identify that this is number 4, or they would count. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then they would look at the story and see the number 4, and then they would have to look at their behavior over time graph and find it on their own graph and put the dot on the 4. And then they would discuss with their peers about the increasing or decreasing that I already mentioned. They would talk about how it's like, again, the starting with the 5, and then it was decreasing the 4, the 3, the 2, the 1, and then increase back up. And they would talk about the change over time. Then they would also go to like other stuff in another story and talk about how it's changing over time, or the plant in the classroom is changing over time due to us watering it, the sunlight it gets.
Okay, great. So let's take a look at some of the lessons, the artifacts you brought with us. And if you can show us and then tell us how you assessed your student learning.
Okay, yes. Here is one when we just started. This is a 3-year-old.
Okay.
She had done her little circles, and I could tell that she was learning, and she was actually paying attention. She was an early 3-year-old, and she was wanting to do the same thing as her peers was. She was placing the little dots, and afterwards, she drew the line to connect them to see how it was. And she actually put lines on here, and the graph was decreasing. Her language, she told me the line was decreasing.
Mm-hmm.
So she was listening. She was using the words that I was using, and her peers as well. She talked to the other children about it. And then this one here is a 4-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with him. He had done the same thing.
Okay.
He placed his little points down and he discussed with it. And he was talking at first, this little boy in particular was talking about how it's going to increase because he listened to the story previously at home. And he said, it's going to increase, it's going to go up. So he remembered that from home and kept asking, how do you know it's going to increase? Let's find out.
Great. Mm-hmm.
So he still places little dots on here, and they get a little dot happy, but you can still see that they know that it's going up or down, increasing, decreasing, because the way that their little dots go.
So they identified a pattern happening in the story. Talk a little bit about that.
They did recognize that the pattern was decreasing by 1 each time, which with their hand, they knew that that was going down each time. So that also brought us to the language and thinking skills as well. The subtracting, that brought in another math lesson.
I'm curious, Peggy, do you have a favorite systems thinking tool?
I do. The behavior over time graph is one of my favorites. It's my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
I do the behavior over time graph every day. We do a little song chart. And like 1 week we'll be talking about the letter A, next week will be letter B. And I always have the behavior over time graph on the board. So we'll have it drew up here, and our knowledge is on the side because that's what is the change over time. Our knowledge changes, and the days is on the bottom. And then on the top, I always add the letter A song. That way, if someone comes in, they'll be like, well, what are they graphing? Then the day 1, our knowledge might be down here on the end, not knowing anything. But by the end of the week, our knowledge changed over that time to knowing most of the song or all of the song. And the children would use that vocabulary and say, well, our knowledge has increased. We know now. Or like at the end of the week, we can discuss if our knowledge of that song can ever decrease. And they would be like, no, when we know a song, we know a song. So.
Great. So they understood the whole concept of growth and change over time. Well, Peggy, thank you for sharing that lesson with us today. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.